Chair, that's us now broadcasting live and the recording started.
Okay, thank you. Right, so welcome everybody to the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board. Please note that the board meeting is being live streamed and will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. Could members please activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video, and can all attendees mute their microphones when not speaking, and please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. Can I first of all confirm that all members have been able to access the papers for today's meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And if members wish to speak at any point, usual procedure, raise your hand in the Teams meeting, or if you've dialed in, you can raise your hand by pressing *5. So if any members lose connection or have any technical issues during the meeting, please alert the Deputy Clerk by separate Teams message if possible, and support will be available today from Mark McCann on 01467 536 088. We will be taking some comfort breaks today at appropriate times, so we'll just fit those in when we can. So first thing, Sedurant, please, Morag.
Thank you, Chair. I think just before we deal with the sediment, I wonder if I can give Harriet the opportunity. I think there's a couple of people waiting in the lobby.
Thank you, Morag. I've just let them in now. Hello, is that Mr. Stolt? Hello, Mr. Stolt?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. You're in the licensing board just now, Mr. Stolt. There are several hearings in front of yourself, so what I'll do is I will just pop you in mute just now, and when it's your time to be called forward, it's *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
That sounds good. So I'm expecting about a wait time for 2 hours about, or how long do you think?
You're item 8 on the agenda, and we're just at the beginning, so can't imagine it would be 2 hours, but there may be a wait.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, I do have 2 others, so is it okay if I just admit them in as well?
Yes, yeah.
Hello, is that Mr. Gordon? Mr. Gordon?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Hi, you're through into the licensing board just now, Mr. Gordon. There are several hearings in front of yourself, so what I'll do is I will just mute you just now, and it's *6 on your telephone when it's your time to be called in.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello, is that Mr. Donald? Mr. Donald?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Donald. You're through into the licensing board meeting just now, and there are several other hearings in front of yourself this morning. So what I'll do is I will just mute yourself, and it's *6 on your phone to unmute yourself when it's your time to be called.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you. And Chair, that is David Scott, the agent for item 6. I will just also let him in just now.
Okay.
Mr. Scott, are you in the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Good morning, Mr. Scott. What I'll do is I will just pop you on mute just now. There are several other hearings in front of yourself, and just unmute yourself when you're happy to come in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That's everyone in the lobby.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go back to the sediment then, please.
Thank you, Chair. If members could just confirm that you're present when your name is read out, please. So Mr. Stuart Adams.
Present.
Ms. Dawn Black.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Crowson.
Present.
Mrs. Marion Ewanson.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Goodall.
Present.
Mr. Trevor Masson, sorry.
Present.
Okay. Mr. Richard Maynard.
Present.
Mrs. Jenny Nichol.
Present.
Ms. Mel Sullivan.
Here.
Mr. Ian Taylor.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning. Chair, we also have Sergeant Neil Grant in attendance from Police Scotland. We have our LSOs, Keith Simpson, Sarah Ward, Lisa Godini and Kevin MacDonald present. I'm clerking today's meeting. Mr. Martin Ingram is present in respect of item number 13 on the agenda, along with our paralegal Clark Simpson. We have Beatrice Hay taking notes as our administrator, and Harriet Tevendale is taking the minutes and is in charge of the recording. And finally, Jenny Mearns is dealing with our live stream this morning. Chair, we also have several members of the public, as you'll be aware, attending for various hearings. They're currently muted, but Harriet will confirm their attendance again at the start of each of their meetings. And finally, we have agents David Scott and Archie McIver attending as agents representing their clients. Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Move on then to item B, which is the 1B, sorry, declaration of members' interests. Can members please state if you have any interest to declare, and if you have, please clarify by giving the item number, the nature of the declaration, and whether or not you will leave the meeting. Okay, I see no indications. Moving on to item 2, which is the equalities resolution. Consider, if so desired, to adopt the following resolution: to have due regard to the need to eliminate discrimination, harassment and victimisation, advance equality of opportunity between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it, and foster good relations between those who share a protected characteristic and persons who do not share it. And where there is an integrated impact assessment provided, consider its contents and take those into account when reaching a decision. Do members agree the resolution on equalities?
Agreed.
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 Item 3 on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 26th of June. So can we agree this is a correct record?
Agree.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. So we move
Just for
then
notes,
on.
Chair, I've got
Oh.
24th of April on mine. Am I
On-
looking at the wrong notes?
Which page are you seeing that?
Page 5, item 3, page 5. I'm just following it through. It's just minutes of the licensing board meeting of the 24th of April. Is that a mistake, or am I looking at the wrong set of papers?
On page 5, it says minutes of the meeting of the 26th of June.
Well, I've uploaded the wrong papers. I do apologise. I don't know how that happened because I took them from the site. Oh, okay. I shall amend
Right, I'll
my
let you
papers.
sort that one out.
Thank you.
Okay. Morag?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just checking, is that item 3 that you're saying the date 24th of April? Mr. Goodall?
Yes.
That's
Page.
referring back to approving the minutes of the previous
That's
meeting.
what I've
That's
done.
what it is.
Yes. My mistake.
So you've
Shoot
got
me.
you've got the
I
right papers. You're
apologise.
fine.
Okay.
There's the correct papers then. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So
Good
obviously
God.
in that meeting, we approved the minutes of the meeting from April. Yeah.
My mistake.
Okay. Go and have a coffee. Right. Item 5. Application for premises and provisional premises licenses, non-contentious. And the officer taking this report will be Morag, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. We have one application today and our paralegal Harriet will take the board through that application. Harriet?
Thank you, Morag. This is for a provisional application for the Afford convenience store. The premises are a full-service convenience store situated on the outskirts of Afford, offering in-store service and phone and internet delivery service. Alcohol will be sold for consumption of the premises only, and other activities included in addition to the supply of alcohol include recorded music. This will be played as background music at all times that the premises is open. The convenience store will also offer, groceries, fresh fruit, vegetables, meats, confectionery, and all other foods that are usually found in a convenience store. They also offer meals to go. This is chilled, cold, and hot. They offer toys, lottery, stationery, coal, and other items that you would assume would be in a convenience store. Delivery orders can be placed via phone or online using their website or their Facebook page, and deliveries are carried out by a courier. No alcohol is delivered without a non-alcohol based grocery order, and Challenge 25 is included in the process. The only representations were received from our LSO, and standard local conditions were recommended. These have all been agreed by the applicant, and we're looking to grant this provisional licence in full.
Okay, thank you. Do the board wish to discuss the content? No. So in that case, in terms of the recommendation at 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and in terms of the recommendation at 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Granted. Yep. Okay, so that application is granted. Moving on then to item 5, applications for major variation of premises licence, non-contentious. And again, the officer taking the report is Morag Stevenson, and Harriet is obviously there as well to speak to each application. So will I hand straight over to Harriet, Morag?
Yeah, thank you. I'm
Yeah.
happy to hand straight to Harriet.
Okay, so we'll go with number 1, which is the spa in Banff. Harriet?
Thank you, Chair. This is an application to change the name of the premises to Sheens of Banff. They are also amending the operating plan to include deliveries and a click and collect service. And they are also updating their description of their licence to include such activities. The certificate of confirmation has been displayed and signed correctly. There were representations received from Police Scotland, who requested that a remote age verification system is in place for these remote sales. Our LSO asked that standard local conditions are to be applied, and also asked for the risk assessment to be updated accordingly in terms of the deliveries carried out. This has all been agreed by the applicant, and an updated risk assessment has been supplied and approved by the LSO. Therefore, we'd be looking to grant this variation in full.
Okay, members, any questions or discussion on the report? No. In that case, in terms of the recommendation at 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made?
Yes.
Yes.
And in
Yes.
terms of the recommendation, in terms of the recommendation 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Okay, so that one for the spa in Banff is also granted. So moving on to number 2, please, Harriet, can you outline the application of Buchan Indoor Bowling Club at Mintlaw?
Thank you, Chair. This is an application to amend the core hours for a Friday evening to enable to host private or member functions. They are looking to alter the time from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. to 6 p.m. to 12:30 at night. LSO recommended standard local conditions to be applied, and environmental health asked for a noise condition to be applied to the licence. This has all been agreed by the applicant, and we're looking to grant this variation in full.
Okay, any discussion, members? Nope. So again, in terms of recommendation 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow determination to be made?
Yes.
And in terms of the recommendation at 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Okay, so that's a grant for that application for Buchan Indoor Bowling Club. So we'll move on to the 3rd application, which is the St Olaf Hotel, Cruden Bay. Harriet, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application to delete the seasonal variations contained within the licence. They're amending their activities, and they're adding outdoor drinking facilities as an activity to the operating plan. They are also updating their terms, times and parts of the premises that children and young persons have access to, updating the capacity and changing the layout. There was representations received from Police Scotland that recommended that the following specific condition is applied: that children are to be accompanied by an appropriate adult, unaccompanied young persons only with the permission of the bar person, and both only permitted access until 11 p.m. This was also reflected in the LSO's recommendations. The LSO has also asked for standard local conditions to be applied. Environmental Health did request that standard specific conditions are applied to the licence in relation to noise, and this has all been agreed by the applicant, and we're looking to grant the variation in full.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? Nope. So in terms of the recommendation 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And in terms of the recommendation 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Grant.
Okay, thank you. So then we still have number 4, the White Heather Hotel Turf. Harriet, if you take us through that one.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application to reduce the terminal hour from a Sunday to a Thursday until 11 o'clock. And they're also adding off sales 11 till 10 daily. They are adding seasonal variation, amending their activities, amending their children and young persons access, and updating the premises capacity in line with each public area. They're also adding serviceable accommodation to the licence, updating the layout plan and the description. There was representation received from Police Scotland in relation to a recorded age verification system being in place, and there was a representation received from Building Standards. There was a live warrant ongoing, however this has now been completed and that representation now has been resolved with Building Standards directly. The LSO asked for standard local conditions to be applied, and there was a typo on the operating plan which has now been amended by the applicant. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service asked for, if they had not already done so, that a fire risk assessment was provided for the premises. The applicant has accepted all conditions stated and amended the operating plan which has been confirmed by the LSO. Therefore, we are looking to grant this variation in full.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members? No, it's quite a complicated one, this. There's a lot of work going on to bring this in front of the board. In terms of recommendation 1.2a, does the board have sufficient evidence to allow a determination to be made?
Yes.
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 And in terms of recommendation 1.2b, having determined that there is sufficient evidence, should the application be granted or refused?
Granted.
Granted. Okay, so that's the application, the White Heather Hotel, granted also. Okay, thank you, Harriet. That's the end of that item. Moving on to item 6, first of our hearings today. And this one is for Sia Roma Restaurant with CO Bella Takeaway, Venture Drive, West Hill, per Mr. Dino Ali, and he is represented today by Mr. David Scott, solicitor. So can I just check, do we have Mr. Scott in the meeting? I think we do.
Yes, I'm in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to just confirm the procedure for the hearing, Morag?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, the report before you today falls under the board's repeated occasional licence policy, whereby after a period of 3 months, an officer, like myself, no longer has delegated power to grant these applications, and instead they come before the board for an explanation as to why a premises licence application or a variation application, if required, has not been made when there is routine trading taking place. You'll see that the report before you sets out the history of the applications that have been made to date. Harriet will be able to provide an update on the position of any premises licence application, and there's also an official representation from our licensing standards officer in relation to the latest applications which are highlighted in the report. It's for the board to determine whether these are to be granted today based on the explanation given for any lack of premises licence application provided by the applicant. Insofar as the procedure is concerned, members will hear from Mr. Scott on behalf of the applicant, then from the Licensing Standards Officer. Mr. Scott has a right of reply. Questions can be asked of all parties. We then have concluding remarks in reverse order, and it's then for the board to reach a determination on the matter. Chair, prior to handing back to you, I just take this opportunity to ask Harriet to confirm whether or not any premises licence application has been received to date.
Thank you, Morag. I confirm to date there's no premises licence in our system.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on then, we've confirmed that Mr. Scott is present. So can I just confirm that Lisa Godini, the Licensing Standards Officer, is present?
Yes, I'm present.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to outline? I've skipped I'm outlining the terms of the application. Morag?
I have outlined the terms and the procedure, Chair. Perhaps if you were to move on to the guidance about the public participant meeting protocol, and that would just ensure that everybody's aware of the requirements before them.
Okay, so in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphones when not speaking if your phone permits this. Please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt the other speakers. If you do, you may be removed from the meeting. Once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So just make sure all the microphones are muted at the moment, and I'll ask Mr. Scott on behalf of Mr. Ali, to outline the terms of the application to the board, and you may wish to address the concerns raised in the representation at this time, although you will get a further opportunity to address the board after other parties have spoken. So over to you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Convener. Well, I have submitted a written representation, and that forms part of the board papers, so I hope the members have had the opportunity to review that, but I will summarise what's in that. I'm instructed by Dino Ali, as you say, he's the applicant in relation to these occasional licences at his premises, Chow Roma and Chow Bella Takeaway in West Hill. He previously ran the well-respected Via Roma restaurant in Inverurie for 17 years. He is an established hospitality operator, and he's taken on the lease of these two units at Arnhall Business Park, and they opened up in May 2024. This application has been brought before the board because it's part of the, I suppose, the repeat application policy requires it to come back after 3 months, as you've heard. We have not submitted a premises licence application yet, and the reason for that is because Mr. Ali had instructed Janet Hood previously to progress matters. Janet Hood had submitted the occasional licence applications, and the anticipation had been that the full premises licence application would be concluded and submitted in advance and hopefully held at this board meeting for determination. That sadly hasn't happened, and Mr. Ali had been looking for alternative counsel to instruct in terms of taking the application forward, and that's when he approached me. So not only am I dealing with this hearing before the board today, but I am dealing with the premises licence application that had effectively fallen into the ether a little bit with Janet's sad passing. I had hoped we would be in a position to say that the application for the premises licence was submitted by now, but we're still waiting for the Section 50 certificates. That's the initial process before we can submit the application, unless we were to go down the provisional route. And I don't think we need to do that because we're pretty much there. I have Section 50 certificates for planning and for environmental health, and we're awaiting the Section 50 certificate from Building Control. There's to be an inspection and a completion certificate issued before that Section 50 certificate is released, but we do anticipate that happening soon. The work has been done. There's, as far as we're aware, nothing outstanding in that regard, and so we expect to get that final Section 50 certificate in the very short future, and I'm talking the next few days, hopefully, at which point I am ready to go with a premises license application, and my instruction is to proceed with that. So we would anticipate that this will be brought back before the board as a full premises license application at the October board. Do I have anything else to add other than fully appreciate that the purpose behind the policy, bringing things back, because it's not generally appropriate to rely on provisional premises, or to rely on occasional license applications to take you through for an indefinite period. That was never the intention here. We do have an intention to apply for a full premises license, and this will happen as soon as we're in a position to do so. On that basis, I would respectfully ask that these two premises occasional license applications are approved, and I would also ask that any future applications are given delegated authority to the clerk to the board in conjunction with the convener to process as well. Like I say, I would anticipate we are bringing a full application before the board on the 31st of October, and would expect, I think we've got, the subject of this review hearing is for 2 occasional licenses. There is another one that has been submitted subsequent to that, and we would require, I think, 1 or perhaps 2 more to take us up to the next board date. So I would ask that not only are these 2 approved, but that a delegated authority is granted to the deputy clerk in conjunction with the convener to approve future applications.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scott, and I do appreciate the circumstances around this application. Can I ask Lisa Godini, the Licensing Standards Officer, to speak to her representation, please?
Thank you. So the LSO representation is in relation to 2 occasional licence applications. The first one is to take effect from the 6th of September, with the second running until the 3rd of October. The applicant has been applying for occasional licences since the beginning of April 2024, with the first taking effect from the 17th of May 2024. To date, there have been 8 occasional licences granted, with 2 presented to you now for consideration and 1 further application, which has recently been submitted and is currently going through the consultation process to take effect from the 4th of October 2024. It would therefore be my opinion that the continual use of occasional licences to run the business is inconsistent with the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board policy statement. 4.45 of the policy relates to the repeat use of occasional licences, where it is detailed that businesses using occasional licences for a period of over 3 months will require applications to be considered at a hearing and will not be granted by the board under delegated authority. Should the Licensing Board be minded to grant these applications, then in my representation I have recommended conditions to apply to the granted licences. These are from the pool of local conditions set out by the Licensing Board in addition to Schedule 4, which are attached to all granted occasional licences. These conditions are detailed in my representation and have been recommended for all previous occasional licence applications and have been agreed previously with the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Mr. Scott, have you got anything you wish to add, having heard the submission from the LSO?
Yes, just to say that we are in full agreement with the conditions that are proposed, and as Lisa Godini has said, they coincide with those that have been previously agreed. No issue with that. And in terms of the policy isn't against the grant of occasional licenses for a continuing period. It's for the delegated ability to grant those. So that's the policy, is that they come back to the board. So it's not against the grant of more than 3 months of occasional licenses, against the delegation of those powers, which is why we're back at the board.
Okay, thank you. So I can now invite members if they have any questions for either of the parties. No questions from anybody? Okay. In that case, we'll go to closing remarks, starting with Lisa, please.
No, I've got nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott, have you any closing remarks?
I don't think I really do. I think we've said everything we need to say in this regard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do members require any legal advice from the clerk?
No.
No.
No. Okay. So could the deputy clerk please outline the terms of the legal test for the application?
Thank you, Chair. There are no legal grounds upon which to refuse these applications. As members are aware, the purpose of the hearing is to try and ensure that the applicant is moving towards a premises licence. Any grant today would be subject to standard local conditions and the specific conditions requested by the LSO and Police Scotland within the report. As already mentioned by Mr. Scott, I would also be seeking a steer from the board as how they would wish for future applications to be dealt with, and I'd be looking for, if it felt appropriate, for that delegated authority to the clerk in consultation with the convener.
Okay, thank you. Do members wish to retire to deliberate? I wouldn't think so. No. Okay. Can board members please just confirm that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision? Oh,
Yes.
sorry, I see hands
Yes.
up. Trevor?
Yeah, it was just about the with this premises license application, would that be processed for the next board meeting, or will it be after that?
I'll hand that question to Morag, but that probably depends on when it's submitted and any information that's
Yeah.
required.
I think from what Mr. Scott's submissions are, that the intention is to have the application in for processing. I'm quite sure Harriet may have a comment on whether or not that may be capable of being processed by October. It's perhaps more appropriate for it because Harriet will be processing it. So
Would I be able to come in, Morag?
yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I'd just like to confirm that until an application goes out for consultation, we don't allocate it to a board. So obviously with an application not being received, we wouldn't be allocating anything to a potential board. Depending on the quality of the documentation received, once we're able to get it out for consultation and the comments received from our consultees, we would then be in a position. It can take up to 6 months to process a premises license application. So it's just to keep that in mind for when the members are making a decision. So the next board is on the 30th of October, which is our next available one. However, we do have a statutory 21-day consultation to fit into that, and obviously our review process and time for our consultees to make comments and us to revert back to the applicant.
So we need delegated occasional licenses until the premises license comes up. Yeah.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay.
Dawn, please.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, I was going to actually move to accepting the recommendation that we grant these occasionals and also delegate to officers with your approval, convener, as they come in to cover the time between now and when the application for the premises license is completed. Because there is obviously their absolute intention to do that, which is the whole point of this policy. So that is absolutely clear, and it's just unfortunate circumstance that it isn't in front of us already. So I would say, yeah, absolutely, we grant these and allow delegated granting in the future.
Okay, thank you. Just before we actually take that motion, just confirm, members, that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision. We were doing that when I noticed hands up.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So have we got a seconder to that motion? Jenny, Mrs. Nichol, please.
Yeah, I'm content to second that. Yeah, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any amendment? No. So in that case, can we just confirm that with the board that the decision is unanimous? That's to grant these occasionals
Yes.
and to delegate to delegate consideration of future applications coming in to the Deputy Clerk in consultation with the convener.
Yes.
Are we all in agreement? Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay. So can the Deputy Clerk please just confirm the motion? Well, it's an agreement now, I think. Decision.
Happy to confirm the decision, Chair. So the decision of the board this morning is that these two applications are granted, and that future occasional or consideration of future occasional licenses received from these applicants will be delegated to the clerk in consultation with the convener until such time as the premises licence application has been processed and granted.
Okay. So thank you for attending today, Mr. Scott.
Thank you, convener. Thank you, members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, we will move on to item 7, which again is a grant of occasional licence, repeated occasional licence, a hearing. This time it's for the Invercalled Muse Bar. I think Mr. Gordon is in the meeting already, so I think he's heard the message. Just note that the board meeting is recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. And I'll just ask the Deputy Clerk again to confirm the procedure for the hearing.
Thank you, Chair. Can we just check that Mr. Gordon is present? He's managed to stay in the meeting. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Gordon. And you're happy that you heard the previous advice given. Thank you. Yeah. Chair, similar to the previous item, this matter relates to our repeated occasional policy. Again, the report sets out the history of the applications that have been made to date. Harriet will be able to provide an update on the position of any variation application that may or may not have been received. And there is also an official representation from our Licensing Standards Officer in relation to these latest applications. It's for the board to determine whether these are to be granted today based on the explanation given for any lack of a variation application having been received. Members may recall that this matter called at the board meeting in June, and members requested that these two applications be deferred to today to allow Mr. Gordon to be present to provide some further information. So insofar as the procedure is concerned, we'll hear from the applicant, hear from the Licensing Standards Officer. Applicant has a right of reply. Questions can be asked of all parties. We then have concluding remarks in reverse order, and it's then for the board to reach a determination. And again, Chair, prior to handing back to you, I just take this opportunity to ask Harriet to confirm whether or not any variation application has been received to date.
Thank you, Morag. To date, there's been no variation application received.
Okay, thank you. So we have confirmed that Mr. Gordon is present. Are you satisfied that you've received all of the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application? Mr. Gordon?
Yeah, I am.
And can I also confirm that Keith Simpson, the LSO, is present?
Yes, I'm here, Chair.
And are you satisfied that you've received all of the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so the guidance, I think everybody would have heard at the last item. So I think I can skip that bit, guidance for the participant in a meeting, the protocol for the licensing board. So I think we can move on with that bit. So I'll go straight to you, Mr. Gordon, then to outline the terms of your application to the board, and you may wish to address the concerns raised in the representation at this time, although you will get a further opportunity to address the board after other parties have spoken. So it's over to you, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you. So we've been using the occasional licence to licence a larger green area in front of the Invercalled Muse Bar. while we have been renovating the Invercourt Arms Hotel, our intentions have always been to get a full licence for this area. We have just had some setbacks along the way. We have started the process of kind of getting ready for this by getting outside cameras installed, and we have also last year installed a beer garden fence around an area that we would plan on licensing. Sadly, this had some setbacks from the local community who felt like it was fitting with the actual area and the look of the area. So we have decided that we had to take that down and start the application again. We have not yet applied for the premises license to be full, but we have all intentions to get ready for this for next year, and we have started the process again of going through, speaking to local community members and seeing what would be more in fitting for the area. We only use this area as kind of a overflow when our main area is full, and it is not used daily, it is only used occasionally. The main time we would use this area is our local Highland Games, which is on the 7th of September this year. Apart from that, we very rarely use this area. It is just licensed in case we ever need it. From what everyone's heard, I don't think there's much else to say from why we're applying for the occasional licenses, but we do have full intentions to go for a full license next year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I go now to Keith Simpson, the LSO, to speak to your representation, please?
Yes, good morning, convener and board members. As Mr. Jamie Gordon has set out here, this hearing relates to a representation made to the 2 occasional licences applied for by Mr. Gordon for an outdoor area adjacent to the Invercourt Mews Bar. As indicated, this is a piece of ground that is adjacent to the bar that's used for outdoor drinking. It's a grassed area in front of the premises, which we would normally look to have be delineated, etc. But there has come up with some problems in the past with regards to the type of fencing or appropriate delineation of the area. The applications in front of the board today are for two occasional licences, which span periods from the 6th of September through to the 3rd of October 2024. These applications are the latest in a series of occasional applications which date back to 17th of May this year, but there was also a series of occasional licences granted from May 2023 to the October 23 last year. These are seasonal and they have stopped over the winter period, clearly because they're outdoor areas and it's very much weather dependent. I therefore believe that the occasional licence applications before you are inconsistent with the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board policy statement at Supplementary Policy 4, Para 4.45, details of which are contained within the report. Whilst I'm not objecting to these applications, incumbent on me to make the board aware of the potential inconsistencies with the policy. If the board are minded to grant these applications, my proposed conditions are all set out in my report. I've got nothing further to add at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gordon, have you got anything you wish to add, having heard from the LSO?
No, I've got nothing to add to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It's open to board members now to ask any questions. No, I just have one question, a question for Mr. Gordon. You stated that this area of ground is only used very occasionally, and in particular for the games on the 7th of September. So have you ever considered just submitting an occasional licence for that actual event?
So apologies, when I said it's used occasionally, it's due to the area we live, we only use it for outdoor drinking during the summer, which is very, very weather dependent. We are also linked to the Fife Arms Hotel in Braemar, so we like to have it licensed for as long as possible in case we need to use it for any events through the hotel or through the bar itself, which is why we always went for the amount we have, which is also why we are planning on going for the full license, so we can have this area whenever we do need it.
Okay, thank you. No further questions? Mr. Taylor, please, Ian.
Yes, thanks, convener. Morning, Mr. Gordon. You commented about the delineation, the fence that received some unfortunate feedback. Are you making any progress? Have you any further thoughts as to how you're going to delineate the area?
Yes, we have been in contact with a local estate in McCall who have shown us, apologies, I don't know the correct name for it, but it's metal fencing, which is more in keeping with the local area. And we have our planners from Moxon kind of working on how much area it would be, and we're working on costs of when that would be installed. So this is all part of a larger plan, as well as the refurbishment of the hotel itself, to have this ready by next year. We're just waiting to hear back from the local community if they'll be happy with the plans we have put in place.
Okay, so moves are afoot, we could say. Thank you.
Yes, stuff's moving.
Mr. Goodall, please.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. I'd just like to ask two wee questions. One, pushing on from what you said about the occasional use. Do you have a diary of the use over the period where you've previously asked for occasional licenses? Can you give us an idea of how often you use it as overspill or as a function area on its own? And also, you say it's your intention to have a license in place next year. Can you firm up on details on that, please?
So I don't have an exact calendar of when the area is used. It is all kind of weather dependent. When we have good weather and we have a lot of people coming to take a part in the bar. We have used it occasionally for an outdoor area for when we have larger kind of barbecues or events on at the Fife Arms. And that's kind of the only really times we use it. And apologies, what was the second question?
If you could firm up on the details of your intention to apply for basically a full license.
Yes, so we've started the process of getting some parts ready. So we've had the outdoor cameras installed. We have sent off our operating plan to see how much of the area we would like to license, if we want to go for the full area or just half of the area, because it is quite a large green. And we have also started working with our local contractor to make sure we have this area fully lit. This is all under works at the moment under my license, and we have been getting help from the Fife Arms Hotel, who we plan on having this in by hopefully the end of September, the latest.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just before I go to Ms. Black, just have you consulted planning in terms of outdoor lighting and things?
So this is what the process they are working with Moxon at the moment. We are getting help from the Fife Arms Hotel, which is a larger team, to work on exactly what we can and can't do, as sadly during the winter this area is a very dark area, so we need to consider what lighting is going to be, where it's going to shine, as we are in a residential area with people around us as well. So this is all being worked on at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Black, please.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions, just to clarify a few points. What do you currently use when this area is open? It's part of your occasionals conditions to have delineation in, and what are you using at the moment?
So at the moment, we just have barriers up. These seem to have worked, and locals do not mind them, as they are easily taken away when this area is closed, and it leaves no marks on the grass or no eyesore for the actual area itself.
What type of barriers are you speaking of?
We are just using roped barriers.
Ropes, yeah, okay. And there's two more occasionals that we're looking at today, which takes you through to October, I think. Are you intending on applying for any more occasionals this year, or will it now wait until spring before you're continuing to want that area to be licensed?
It will be, if I'm honest, it will just be until next year we apply for any more. And both these licenses, we put them in each year as a set kind of period to cover ourselves if everything was planned. We only really need one of the two licenses, the one that would cover us for our Highland Games, as this is the kind of largest event in the Braemar calendar. We're quite happy to close the beer garden and have everything packed down and put away at the end of the first application if it was granted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? In that case, we'll go to closing remarks, please. Go first to Keith Simpson.
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gordon, have you got anything you wish to say in closing?
No, thank you for everyone's time.
Okay, do members require legal advice from the clerk? No. Will the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the legal test for the application in that case?
Thank you, Chair. Again, there are no grounds upon which to refuse, as the point is to try and ensure that the applicant moves towards varying their premises licence. Any grant today will be subject to the standard local conditions and specific conditions recommended by the LSO and police within the report. Chair, I would also, again, be looking for a steer from the board on any future applications. I appreciate the applicant has stated that any future applications may not be until the start of next year, but it's whether or not members would be content for that to be a delegated authority in conjunction with the convener at that time.
Okay, thank you. Do board members wish to retire to deliberate? Nope. In that case, I'll open the matter to members for debate. Mr. Goodall, please.
My only concern on this, if we delegate powers to officers to decide, there's no firm date for whereby they're going to apply for a full licence, premises licence. So that gives me some concern. I'd like to see more detail on that from the applicant before we do anything. That's my concern at the moment. Thank you.
Harriet, were you wanting to come in there?
I was just going to say, Mr. Goodall, you know, if the powers were then to be deferred back to the convener in conjunction with the deputy clerk, then you'd obviously have that additional step to be able to ensure that the premises license, you know, is being the variation is being produced, etc. So there is that additional security there. You obviously have the option to return it to admin officers, or you have it with conjunction with the convener. So there is that additional step if you involve the convener, and you can still obviously have an update of where the position of a variation is.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Black, please.
Thank you. I have the same concerns. I'm absolutely content for these two occasionals to be granted. They've got a big event coming up, which is really important to the hotel. So I think it's really important that that's allowed. So those two, but then when it comes to next season, when they start applying for occasionals again, I would actually be asking it for not to be delegated and that it needs to come back to the board so that we can see the progression that they've made over the winter towards actually putting that variation application in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crowson, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, because of the site, the sensitivities and that, I'm guessing that he's probably speaking about putting in some sort of wrought iron fence or something, and speaking about the lighting and that, what sort of evidence will he be able to produce over the winter that would satisfy us on the board that there has been movement, other than having lodged for an application? I was just wondering.
Anybody able to answer that?
Yeah, so once we have everything in place, we can get sufficient evidence across of what lighting we'll be using and the fencing that will be going in, as well as all the detailed plans on the operating plan when the license is set in.
Okay.
So from a, sorry, advice for legal, so from a legal point of view, if there was, what sort of evidence would we need to see in front of us? Would it be sort of quotes or that work has been quoted for or work has been undertaken? What sort of stuff would we need to see?
Yeah, we can get quotes across for any lighting we plan on using, any iron fencing we plan on using. I believe we do currently have a quote for the iron fencing. We are just currently looking for another one, as it was a bit of a, to be 100% honest, it was a bit of a shock, the price. So we are currently looking for another quote, but I can have any of this sent in when we send the application in.
Okay, can I stop you there, Mr. Gordon? I think maybe Morag, that's more an issue for you, is it? It would be at the premises application, yeah.
Yeah, it's a variation application that we'll be looking for, so that's something we will be able to give any future board an update on. Also, it would be open to the applicant to provide the board with any information about the progress at the next hearing. I just wonder if I could also take this opportunity, insofar as delegating powers are concerned, just to clarify, if authority is delegated to the deputy clerk in conjunction with the convener, it is always open to the convener to request that the matter be brought back before the board. So you do still have that oversight. I appreciate the concerns that have been raised. My slight concern is that we have had difficulties in the past where applications arrive and there's not a board hearing fixed in time to deal with that application. So I would have slight concerns. You know, I either take matters back to the board, that's absolutely fine, and that's within your authority to do so. But just to clarify that if it was in conjunction with the convener, if no progress had been made, it would be open to the convener to potentially maybe grant an immediate application to cover the time until the next board hearing, but to take the matter back to the board. So it's just to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where we've missed one board hearing and we've got a significant wait until the next one.
Okay,
I hope that made sense. I think it probably makes sense to the convener, because I know we've had that issue before.
Thank you for pointing that out. Ms. Black, please.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of thing that I was meaning for evidence of progress would be that consultation with the community and the results of that kind of community consultation, and planning applications going in if that was required. That was the sort of thing that I was looking for the progress.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any further representations, hands up, sorry, no further indications. In that case, board members, can you confirm that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So have we got a motion? Mr. Taylor?
Yes, thanks, convener. And I would propose, I feel confident that the occasionals that's been asked for should be granted. Taking into account the time period between now and the likely use of further, I would request that request that there is progress has been described, and that anything further comes back to the convener and officers to decide as to whether further occasional should be granted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Ms. Sullivan?
Yes.
You're happy to second?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, is there an amendment? We maybe just need to look at the wording that's going in there. Ms. Black?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still concerned about the timeframes. Would that, so, you know, would we be allowing this until the variation is received and processed, or are we going to put a time limit on it? I would, you know, I'm erring on the side of wanting to put a time limit on that. I understand the argument of you know, having things before boards and the timeframes, etc. But that then it becomes incumbent upon the applicant to know when the boards are going to be, to make sure that he's got his applications in plenty of time. So, because he was speaking about that application not coming in until September next year, which is, you know, that's a year away. So I'm not quite sure how to word it, but I would be looking to put in an amendment to include a time frame.
Okay, that
rather
might
than it,
be...
because potentially it could go on for 2 years. We don't know.
Yeah. I'll go to Deputy Clerk Morag.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the concerns about time frame. We have encountered difficulties when we've put a time limit on it in similar circumstances. I think, again, if, you know, within the minutes and within the general discussion that's taken place, the concerns will be noted. It would be a matter that potentially the convener could pick up on, or equally, you know, I think if you're going to put a time limit on it, it's firstly, we're going to have to find a board date that you are fixing that time limit to, and it then goes into looking at the citation dates for that as well. So again, I'm really just highlighting that given the discussion, that would be noted in the minutes. I would hope that that is something that the convener would pick up on as these applications came through, and they could be referred back to the next board if there is no progress. So again, just highlighting that there is a difficulty in fixing a specific time limit.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And I think, would it address your concerns, Dawn, the fact that, you know, if it does come to the clerk in consultation with myself, that we would bear all that in mind, and that might be the trigger to have it referred back to a board?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, if come next September there's not been anything forthcoming, then I think then absolutely it has to come back to the board at that point, which is why I'm thinking more of putting that time limit on it rather than it just being incumbent upon you to make sure and remember that that's what we're doing.
If that, I mean, is that, we could do that, couldn't we, Morag? But it is quite difficult.
Technically, you can do it. Procedurally and administratively, it is more difficult. But yes, technically, you can do it.
So in that case, is there a... Oh, sorry. Would there be a seconder for that amendment? Mr. Adams?
Yes, I would lend my support to Ms Black on this consideration and amendment. Thank you.
We might need just to clarify then what the time limit would be.
Okay, so I'm just looking up when the boards are, as long as we approve those dates, of course, at the end of this meeting, is the 27th of August 25 and the 29th of October 25. So considering that the applicant is saying that they would be aiming to get an application in by September next year, if we made it for the October licensing board, that gives them some leeway there for that time frame.
Okay, would you agree with that, Mr. Adams?
Yes, concur with that. Thank you.
Okay, Harriet, do you want to come in?
I would just highlight, so if we were aiming for the October board in 2025, our agenda setting meeting would actually be dated the 8th of October, which we would need to know to be able to cite the applicant successfully. So just to keep that date in mind, it wouldn't actually be the date of the board, it would be the 8th of October.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments? No. So in that case, briefly summing up, first, Ms. Black.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I would like to put in an amendment to say that, yes, we grant these occasionals and we delegate to the deputy clerk and the convener, but putting a time limit on until the October board, which would give the applicant until September basically to get a variation in.
Okay. And Mr. Taylor?
Yes, thanks. I don't see much difference between the two. However, I do feel that the applicant is making progress already, and I have every confidence that the convener and deputy clerk will bear in mind the comments that has been made, and if it should come forward without the appropriate progress, it'll come before the board anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Harriet?
Sorry, Mr. Taylor, could you just please clarify in your motion that you would be looking to delegate to the convener in conjunction with the deputy clerk until such time a variation application has been processed and granted? Would that be correct?
Yeah, that is. Thank you very much for selecting these words. That's exactly what I mean.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Harriet, for clarifying what I was about to clarify.
We'll probably repeat
Apologies.
ourselves here then, because just asking for the deputy clerk to confirm the motion and the amendment before we go to the vote.
Right. So the motion, which is proposed by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Ms. Sullivan, is to grant these two applications subject to the standard local conditions and special conditions contained within the report, and thereafter to delegate authority for the granting of any future occasional licence applications to the deputy clerk in consultation with the convener until such time as the variation application has been processed and granted. I think. And then the amendment, which is, we have an amendment by Ms. Black, seconded by Mr. Adams, again to grant the two applications subject to the standard local conditions and specific conditions contained within the report, but thereafter to delegate authority for the granting of any future occasional licence applications to the deputy clerk in consultation with the convener until 8th of October 2025. Can I just check that Ms. Black's happy with that wording?
Yes, as long as a variation has not been submitted, because obviously if a variation is submitted, then it becomes a moot point.
It becomes a moot point because the occasionals would fall anyway. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can we take the vote, please?
Thank you. If you can just confirm when I read out your name, whether you're voting for the motion or for the amendment. So with Mr. Stuart Adams.
Amendment.
Ms. Dawn Black.
Amendment.
Mr. Jeff Crowson.
Amendment.
Mrs. Marion Ewanson.
Motion.
Mr. Jeff Goodall.
Amendment.
Mr. Trevor Mason.
Amendment.
Mr. Richard Maynard.
Amendment.
Mrs. Jenny Nichol.
Amendment.
Mrs. Mel Sullivan.
Motion.
And Mr. Ian Taylor.
Motion.
Thank you. Chair, we have 3 votes for the motion, 7 votes for the amendment. Therefore, the amendment is carried.
Okay, thank you. So can we now just confirm the board's decision, please?
So the decision of the board this morning is to grant the 2 occasional licence applications before you, and thereafter to delegate the authority for the processing and granting of future occasional licence applications to the deputy clerk in consultation with the convener until the 8th of October 2025. And just to confirm that the 2 licences granted this morning are subject to the standard local conditions and the specific conditions contained within the report.
Okay. Right, thank you for attending the board today, Mr. Gordon. That concludes that item.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm actually going to suggest we take a short comfort break at this point before we start item 8, even 10 minutes, which takes us to 11:35. So if we just switch off the recording and the live stream.